Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Dojayam Udirayet. Nasta Praeshu Abhadreshu. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke. Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Jai, good morning. There's nothing more ecstatic than having the association of the devotees in person at Krishna House. Unfortunately, my good wife got COVID yesterday, so I have quarantined here for a few days. And we will do our best to cover this very valuable verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. Perhaps one of the most important verses of the entire text we'll be focusing on today. But first, I just want to ask if anyone has ever heard of Tom Hanks. All right, so what are some of the roles that Tom Hanks has played in the movies back in your impurified days when you used to watch movies? Forrest Gump. He's a slow Alabamian boy. What else did he play? Robert
Langdon in Da Vinci Code.
Yes, yeah, a detective. He played a castaway on a desert island. He played an airplane pilot. He played a ship captain. He played a little boy who grew up too fast. He played a Western newspaper man. Right?
Buzz Lightyear.
What?
Buzz Lightyear.
Buzz Lightyear.
Oh, Buzz Lightyear. So one person playing all these very distinct roles. This is analogous to how Krishna has all of these diverse incarnations that we're going to read about. We're going to cover most of chapter 3 today. Do you remember this question asked by the sages at Naimisharanya? They asked Suta, please tell us about the incarnations of the Lord. And so here, Suta Goswami is answering this question very elaborately. There'll be a fair amount of reading, so everybody is ready with their microphones. We could try to just go men's side, ladies' side, men's side, ladies' side, like that, back and forth, and read all these translations, beginning with chapter 3, first canto, verse 1. Ready? Can we put that up on the screen, Nitai Prabhu? Okay, please. Someone start.
Suta said, in the beginning of the creation, the Lord first expanded himself in the universal form of the Purusha incarnation and manifested all the ingredients for the material creation. And thus at first there was the creation of the 16 principles of material action. This was for the purpose of creating the material universes.
The 16 principles of material action refer to the 5 gross material elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether, plus the 10 senses, plus the mind. So these were the 16 principles initially created by the Purusha. And remember, we're looking at incarnations as they appear in our perception in this material world. Okay, please continue.
A part of the Purusha lies down within the water of the universe. From the navel lake of his body sprouts a lotus stem. And from the lotus flower atop the stem, Brahma, the master of all engineers in the universe, becomes manifest.
This is described in Canto 2.
It is believed that all the universal planetary systems are situated on the extensive body of the Purusha, but he has nothing to do with the created material ingredients. His body is eternally in spiritual existence par excellence.
Also in Canto 2 and Chapter 11 of Bhagavad Gita, this incarnation is described.
The devotees with the perfect eyes see the transcendental form of the Purusha, who has thousands of legs, thighs, arms, and faces, all extraordinary. In that body, there are thousands of heads, ears, eyes, and noses. They are decorated with thousands of helmets and glowing earrings and are adorned with garlands.
This form, the second manifestation of the Purusha, is the source and indestructible seed of multifarious incarnations within the universe. From the particles and portions of this form, different living entities like demigods, men, and others are created.
First of all, in the beginning of creation, there were 4 unmarried sons of Brahma, the Kumaras, who, being situated in a vow of celibacy, underwent severe austerities for the realization of the absolute truth.
The supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices accepted the incarnation of a boar, the second incarnation, and for the welfare of the earth, he lifted the earth from the nether regions of the universe.
This is described in Canto 3.
In the millennium of the Rishis, the personality of Godhead accepted the 3rd empowered incarnation in the form of Devarshi Narada, who is a great sage among the demigods. He collected expositions of the Vedas which deal with devotional service and which inspire non-fruitive action.
Just a brief comment now. Narada Muni will be described in the upcoming chapters we'll be reading later this month. And then he appears in every canto of the Bhagavatam. So he's the spiritual master of the author, Vyasadeva. And sometimes the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is considered a glorification of Vyasadeva's guru by his disciple. So he is an incarnation in the empowered living entity category. Okay, thank you. Next.
In the 4th incarnation, the Lord became Nara and Narayan, the twin sons of the wife of King Dharma. Thus he undertook severe and exemplary penances to control the senses.
The 5th incarnation, named Lord Kipala, is foremost among perfect beings. He gave an exposition of the creative elements and metaphysics to assure Brahmana, for in course of time this knowledge had been lost.
The 6th incarnation of the Purusha was the son of the sage Atri. He was born from the womb of Anasuya, who prayed for an incarnation. He spoke on the subject of transcendence to Alarka, Prahlad, and others, Yadu, Heyhaya, etc.
The 7th incarnation was Yagna, the son of Prajapati Ruchi and his wife Akuti. He controlled the period during the change of the Svayambhuva Manu and was assisted by demigods such as his son Yama.
In the 8th incarnation was King Rishabha, son of King Nabi, and his wife Merudevi. In this incarnation, the Lord showed the path of perfection, which is followed by those who have fully controlled their senses and who are honored by all others by all orders of life.
O Brahmanas, in the 9th incarnation, the Lord, prayed for by sages, accepted the body of a king, Prithu, who cultivated the land to yield various produce, and for that reason, the earth was beautiful and attractive.
When there was a complete injunction after the period of Chakshusha Manu, and the whole world was deep within water. The Lord accepted the form of a fish and protected Vaishvata Manu, keeping him up on a boat.
The 11th incarnation of the Lord took the form of a tortoise whose shell served as a pivot for the Mandarachala hill, which was being used as a churning rod by the theists and atheists of the universe.
In the 12th incarnation, the Lord appeared as Dhanvantari, and in the 13th, he allured the atheists by the charming beauty of a woman and gave nectar to the demigods to drink.
In the 14th incarnation, the Lord appeared as Narasimha and purified the strong body of the atheist Hiranyakashipu with his nails, just as carpenter pierces cane.
In the 15th incarnation, the Lord assumed the form of a dwarf, Vamana, and visited the arena of sacrifice ran by Maharaj Bali. Although at heart, he was willing to regain the kingdom of 2 planetary systems. He simply asked for donation of 3 steps of land.
In the 16th incarnation of the Godhead, the Lord as Brigupati annihilated the administrative class Kshatriyas 21 times, being angry with them because of their rebellion against the Brahmanas, the intelligent class.
What's the other name of Brigupati? Parasuram, okay.
Thereafter, in the 17th incarnation of Goddess, Sri Vyasadeva appeared in the womb of Satyavati through Parashara Muni, and he divided the one Veda into several branches and sub-branches, seeing that the people in general were less intelligent.
In the 18th incarnation, the Lord appeared as King Rama. In order to perform some pleasing work for the demigods, he exhibited superhuman powers by controlling the Indian Ocean and then killing the atheist King Ravana, who was on the other side of the sea.
In the 19th and 20th incarnations, the Lord advented himself as Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna in the family of Vrishni, the Yadu dynasty, and by so doing, he removed the burden of the world.
Then in the beginning of Kali Yuga, the Lord will appear as Lord Buddha, the son of Anjana, in the province of Gaya, just for the purpose of deluding those who are envious of the faithful theists.
Therefore, at the conjunction of 2 yugas, the Lord of creation will take his birth as the Kalki incarnation and become the son of Vishnu Yasha. At this time, almost all the rulers of the earth will have degenerated into plunderers.
If I could stop here just a moment. These last 2, Buddha and Kalki, are predictions from the Bhagavatam. Buddha appeared about 2,600 years ago, and the Bhagavatam was written about 5,000 years ago. So there's not a great discussion about Buddha in Bhagavatam, and yet his appearance is predicted. So this is one of the reasons why scholars will not accept the veracity of the Bhagavatam being 5,000 years old. They say, oh, it couldn't possibly be because they mentioned Lord Buddha. But here it is a prophecy, and the prophetic appearance of Kalki is also predicted. The age of the Bhagavatam is determined by astrological calculations from descriptions of various constellations and settings from the time that the text was written down. So that's how that figure is arrived anyway, the Buddha's prediction is just one of the amazing parts of Bhagavatam.
O Brahmanas, the incarnations of the Lord are innumerable, like rivulets flowing from inexhaustible sources of water.
All the rishis, manus, demigods, and descendants of Manu, who are especially powerful, are plenary portions or portions of the plenary portion of the Lord. This also includes the Prajapatis.
All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord, but Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists.
Here is the blessing, Palashruti, for reading this chapter.
Whoever carefully recites the mysterious appearances of the Lord with devotion in the morning and in the evening gets relief from all miseries of life.
The conception of the Virat universal form of the Lord as appearing in the material world is imaginary. It is to enable the less intelligent and neophytes to adjust to the idea of the Lord's having form. But actually, the Lord has no material form.
This is getting back to the first incarnations mentioned, the universal form. We have just a few more verses, please. Please read on.
Clouds and dust are carried by the air, but less intelligent persons say that the sky is cloudy and the air is dirty. Similarly, they also implant material bodily conceptions on the spirit self.
Everybody read out?
Beyond this gross conception of form is another, subtle conception of form, which is without formal shape and is unseen, unheard, and unmanifest. The living being has his form beyond this subtlety, otherwise he could not have repeated birth.
Whenever a person experiences by self-realization that both the gross and subtle bodies have nothing to do with the pure self, at that time he sees himself as well as the Lord.
If the illusory energy subsides and the living entity becomes fully enriched with knowledge by the grace of the Lord, then he becomes at once enlightened with self-realization and thus becomes situated in his own glory.
Thus, learned men describe the births and activities of the unborn and inactive, which is undiscoverable even in the Vedic literatures. He is the Lord of the heart.
The Lord, whose activities are always spotless, is the master of the six senses and is fully omnipotent with his six opulences. He creates the manifest universes, maintains them, and then annihilates them without being in the least affected. He is within every living being and is always independent.
The foolish with a poor fund of knowledge cannot know the transcendental nature of the forms, names, and activities of the Lord, who is playing like an actor in a drama, nor can they express such things neither in their speculations nor in their words.
Only those who render unreserved, uninterrupted, favorable service unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, who carries the wheel of the chariot in his hand, can know the creator of the universe in his full glory, power, and transcendence.
And that was our assignment for today. One more. We have, one more verse.
Only by making such inquiries in this world can one be successful and perfectly cognizant. For such inquiries invoke transcendental ecstatic love unto the personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of all the universes, and guarantee cent% immunity from the dreadful repetition of birth and death.
Very good. Thank you. So back to verse 28, please. This is an amazing conclusion, isn't it, to this description? He gives all the detailed description of various incarnations, many, many of them. And then he ends with this extensive blessing and connects the knowledge that we're acquiring about these incarnations to the process of self-realization. So the jnana is the foundation for the vijnana, or the knowledge is the foundation for the realization. So we'll read now text 28. Nita, if you could put that up on the screen, please. Ete Changsa Kala Pumsa. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam. Hridayanti Yuge Yuge. This verse is sometimes called the Mahavakya, or the great verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's a great one to memorize. Let's chant it a few more times, huh? Ete Changsa Kala Pumsam. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam. Hridayanti Yuge Yuge. Please chant.
Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam. Hridayanti Yuge Yuge.
Ete Chamsa Kala Pumsa. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam. Hridayanti Yuge Yuge.
Ete Chamsa Kala Pumsa. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam. Hridayanti Yuge Yuge.
Ete Chamsa Kala Pumsa. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam. Hridayanti Yuge Yuge.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, synonyms together, please.
Portions of the plenary portions. Of the Supreme. Krishna, Lord Krishna. Two, God, Bhagavan, personality of Godhead. Swayam, in person. Indrari, enemies of Indra. Vyakulam, disturbed. Lokam, all the planets. Hridayanti, his protection.
Okay, and translation together.
All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. The Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord enlightens to protect the atheists.
We remember that Krishna was mentioned on the list of incarnations, and this verse is so important because it distinguishes, yes, Krishna is, from our vision, one of the incarnations, but he is in fact the origin of all incarnations. And he has his purpose in coming, as described in this verse, also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Anyone remember a relevant verse from Bhagavad Gita? Why does Krishna come? Why does he incarnate or descend? I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam dharma samtapanarya sambhavami yuge yuge.
Very good. And translation?
Annihilate the miscreants and protect the devotees.
I come age after age, you after you go. Okay, thank you. All right, who would like to start reading the purport? We have a volunteer.
In this particular stanza, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is distinguished from other incarnations. He is counted amongst the avatars, incarnations, because out of his causeless mercy, the Lord descends from his transcendental abode. Avatar means one who descends. All the incarnations of the Lord, including the Lord himself, descend to the different planets of the material world, as also in different species of life to fulfill particular missions. Sometimes he comes himself, and sometimes his different plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions, or his differentiated portions directly or indirectly empowered by him, descend to this material world to execute certain specific functions. Originally, the Lord is full of all opulences, all prowess, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation. When they are partly manifested through the plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions, it should be noted that certain manifestations of his different powers are required for those particular functions. When in the room small electric bulbs are displayed, it does not mean that the electric powerhouse is limited by the small bulbs. The same powerhouse can supply power to operate large-scale industrial dynamos with greater volts. Similarly, the incarnations of the Lord display limited powers because so much power is needed at that particular time. Should I go on?
How about we pass it on? I'll tell you what, let's skip this next paragraph and let's read the last two.
This is the last.
Yeah, according to Jiva Goswami.
According to Srila Jiva Goswami's statement, in accordance with authoritative sources, Lord Krishna is the source of all other incarnations. It is not that Lord Krishna has any source of incarnation. All the symptoms of the supreme truth in full are present in the person of Lord Shri Krishna. And in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord emphatically declares that there is no truth greater than or equal to him. In this stanza, the word Swayam is particularly mentioned to confirm that Lord Krishna has no other source than himself. Although in other places the incarnations are described as Bhagavan because of their specific functions, nowhere are they declared to be the Supreme Personality. In this stanza, the word Swayam signifies the supremacy as the Samam Varnam.
Okay. And in this last paragraph, I'll summarize it so we can get off the screen now, the text. Thank you. So first and foremost, overall, this shows the depth of our Krishna conscious philosophy. People look at Hinduism as polytheistic, especially those who are very unfamiliar with it. They say, oh, you worship so many gods, and there are 33 million demigods. And the idea of polytheism is not found anywhere in the Bhagavatam. What is found, however, is this description that we're reading here, that Krishna, just like an actor, and this example is used in this chapter and elsewhere, an actor can play so many roles. One person can present, according to the circumstances, the same person is presenting himself in this way or that way. And so Krishna is doing the same thing. The types of incarnations are many. There are those that are virtually the same as Krishna himself. Krishna is coming with his full power, or a large portion of it. Then there are incarnations where Krishna is coming just to highlight a particular facet of his personality. Like, for example, Lord Ram is known for being the ideal king. So he's Krishna, but he's fulfilling this particular function. As the ideal king, for example, Lord Ram took this Ek Patni Vrat. He only married one wife, although polygamy was standard for the royalty. But he was only dedicated to Sita, whereas Krishna married 16,000 wives. And this was also perfectly appropriate for his pastime. so in the study of these incarnations, what we are really seeing is Krishna. We're seeing Krishna in this way, Krishna in that way, Krishna in the other way. Krishna emphasizing his martial ability as Parasaram. Krishna emphasizing his healing ability as Dhanvantari. Krishna empowering a living entity to teach the holy name like Narada Muni. Or Krishna empowering a great ruler like Prithu Maharaj. These are called Shakyavesh avatars, or jivas, individual souls who are empowered. In the broad sense, each and every one of us is an avatar of Krishna, because Krishna is the original person, and then he manifests himself in all, as was mentioned in the purport, these portions or portions of expansions. We are expansions of Krishna, each and every one of us, meant for bringing him pleasure. And all of the individual personalities in this world and everywhere on all of these individual incarnations, all of them have this same foundational purpose of bringing Krishna pleasure. In this verse, we read that Krishna comes in order to please the theists and to defeat the atheists. So this brings him joy just as much as pleasing a child or protecting a child will bring joy to the parents. Now, Krishna enjoys in such a vast variety of ways, and it's antithetical again to this idea of the Judeo-Christian God. That's one of the main reasons for a Bhagavatam class for me, is just to pound out of my head this notion of God that was instilled in me in my childhood. God is the fearsome. God is the ferocious. God is the better, you better obey him or else. He's got a thunderbolt. And none of that applies to Krishna. It is a facet of Krishna, but it's such an insignificant facet of Krishna, inasmuch as the prison is part of society, but it's an inconsequential part given the whole picture. There's so many positive things going on in society, so many reasons, if the government is good, to appreciate the government. So many reasons, so many constructive things one can do with oneself and one's time. Only people who are foolish make the mistake of getting entangled in the prison. But even in the prison, although they don't want to admit it, they are still under the authority of the government. See? So this is the position of the atheist, under the authority of Krishna, but just wanting to fight it tooth and nail as much as possible. Still, nothing really changes. So the incarnations of the Lord are variously empowered. Balaram is considered the first expansion of the Lord. And so Balaram, his business is to take care of everybody who doesn't want to be enjoying with Krishna in their natural relationship of service. For example, Duryodhana was very close with Balaram. Balaram took care of Duryodhana because Duryodhana was so inimical to Krishna's devotees, the Pandavas, that Krishna didn't personally want to deal with him. So Balaram is virtually entirely Krishna, in terms of their incredible opulences and their power and their abilities. There's virtually no difference between Krishna and Balaram. And yet, Balaram is an expansion of Krishna. Once devotees were having this discussion, who is strong? One devotee asserted, there is no difference between Krishna and Balaram. And another devotee said, no, there is a difference. There is, because Balaram's relationship with Radharani is different than Krishna's. And so they took this debate to Srila Prabhupada, a third devotee. He said, Prabhupada, one devotee is saying that Krishna and Balaram are non-different. And Prabhupada said, he is right. And then the devotee said, but another devotee, Jamuna, she's saying that, no, Krishna's relationship with Radharani is different than Balaram's relationship with Radharani. Prabhupada said, she's right. And then the devotee said, but Prabhupada, they can't both be right. And Prabhupada said, you're right. In other words, Krishna is not limited by any kind of rational concept that we may try to impose. He can appear in any way, in any form. Even in the purport is mentioned any species. In the last paragraph of the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that Krishna empowers various appearances or his various incarnations according to the need of the condition. Up to 78% of the living entity, of the powers of Krishna can manifest in the living entity. A perfect personality who practices bhakti and perfects bhakti can manifest up to 78% of Krishna's qualities. Isn't that amazing? That's pretty good. That's a C+. Lord Brahma is an example of such a living entity. So powerful, just about the maximum that a person can be. These empowered incarnations are called Shaktivesh avatars, where Krishna manifests one of his potencies or many of his potencies through the agency of an ordinary or a jiva soul. The jiva soul is an avatar, as I mentioned, every one of us, but just to a little degree. Just like if you take a drop of water from the ocean, all of the attributes chemically of the ocean are found in the drop, but the capacity of the drop is nowhere near that of the ocean. So in the same way, a sample of Krishna is found in each of us. Prabhupada said that we are all sample gods. But we read about these great incarnations just to understand the depth and the extent to which Krishna can empower and act through a living entity. And his incarnations as Ram or Balaram or others, he manifests much more of his potencies, in the 90 percentiles. But the important thing to remember, the reason this verse is so valuable is that there is nobody who is enjoying more than Krishna, nor is there anybody who exists independently of Krishna. When we think of God, it is not this universal scorekeeper who's saying good or bad, yes or no, up and down. He's having fun. He's too busy having fun to bother with sending people to heaven or hell. He is just enjoying, and in all of these expansions, all of these incarnations are all just ways to enhance his pleasure and his happiness. So think about it, just how mind-blowing that is. This concept of God as a supreme enjoyer. He's doing nothing but enjoying. That's all he does, all the time. And there's not even time in where he is. So, that which we would like to do, that is enjoy without limitation or end, he is doing. We're trying to do it in our own perverse ways, but we're restricted in so many ways. So many ways we are conditioned, we are restrained, we are limited. We can party all night, but eventually we get tired. We can eat and eat, but eventually we will be so full we won't want to look at another bite. We are conditioned, we are limited. Krishna is not limited in his enjoyment. He just goes on, and that's all he ever does. And everything else that exists is just a byproduct of that enjoyment. Now, is that a god or what? There's no need to be afraid of Krishna because, first of all, we couldn't interrupt his enjoyment even if we wanted to. And second, he's too busy enjoying to be mad at anybody. He's just rather inviting everybody, why don't you join the party? Why don't you come along? Why don't you enjoy with me? And so for this reason, he comes in this infinite variety of forms, as numerous as there are waves on the ocean, just on and on and on. In every species, in every time and place, Krishna is appearing to invite us to join the party. to just be with him in that pleasure groves. You've seen Krishna and the cowherd boys just walking through the forests of Vrindavan. They're all just having so much fun. Even when demons come, it's fun for them. That is where we are going in practicing bhakti. And we experience it even in this dank material world. We experience the joy of being with Krishna and being with other people who are with Krishna, and having Krishna at the center. It's counterintuitive. It's incomprehensible to the non-devotee. How could we find happiness in practicing the rules and regulations of bhakti yoga? And yet those who have the courage to try it discover that, wow, this is really fun. And it's just fun because Krishna's having fun. So the knowledge of the avatars, there's various types of avatars. It's a very deep science. I don't want to go, try to go into the details, because it just goes on and on, how many different types of incarnations and so forth. That's all there for those who want to study it and read it. The full empowering Swayam Prakash, or the pastime avatars, the Leela avatars, or the Manus, or the Yuga, on and on and on. We should never feel like Krishna consciousness is some super sentimental belief. It's a whole deep science that goes far beyond what we could possibly understand in this lifetime. So there's no shortage of philosophy. There's no shortage of backup. But the overall purpose of it all is just to have fun, to learn how to enjoy spiritually, to learn how to be a fulfilled human being, a fulfilled spirit soul who is dancing with Krishna, enjoying with Krishna, and living life with purpose and happiness and freedom. That is the value of this knowledge we get from Srimad Bhagavatam. Any comments or questions? Christina.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for a very inspiring and joyful class. So I want to make a video game comparison here. So there is a very famous video game called Mario Kart. And in this game, Mario Kart, it's a racing game, but it's really about having fun more than it is about winning a particular race. And so you're racing along, you have this little cart, you have this little character, and you're racing, and there are these race tracks, and they go through the water, and there's mountains, and it's just this beautiful fantasy world. And if you go off of the track, then at some point a little guy will float down from a cloud and pick you up with a little fishing pole and bring you back to the track so that you can keep on going. And if you get this idea that like, oh, well, I just want to be able to go wherever I want and I don't want to stay on the track, then you're going to get frustrated, right? You're going to keep getting brought, at some point you'll have to stop. You won't be able to go wherever, and you'll be brought back to the track. And you might think, well, game isn't very fun. But the fact is that if you follow the track and you play the game the way it's meant to be played, then you have a lot of fun. There's like all these power-ups and all these cool things that you can do. And likewise, if you think that, oh, this is a racing game, therefore I must win, and I must win all the time, and that is how to play the game, you're also not going to have very much fun, because Mario Kart very famously has this rubber banding mechanic where if you are in the lead, then you get worse power-ups, and if you're in the back, you get better power-ups, and so it kind of like keeps the balance that way. So like one person can't just win all the time, because the game is about having fun. So I think this is very similar to this material world, because it's like, if you stay on the track, you're going to have, and you embrace this idea of like having fun and playing with people and just having a good time and all the different, enjoying the world the way that the game designer designed it, then you're going to have so much fun. It's one of the most fun games ever. But if you try to, go off and kind of like, oh, well, I don't want to follow the rules, or like, oh, you kind of take it too seriously, it's all about achievement, whatever, then you're not going to have so much fun, and you're not going to fulfill the purpose of the game.
Wow, did you build that game?
No, I did not, but I very much appreciate the game. I've played it a lot.
Okay, well, that is an excellent analogy. Yeah, the more we try to win, the more we we are defeated. There's an exercise, a group building exercise, where everybody is encouraged to win as much as you can. And it's set up in such a way that it draws out people's greed and ambition. So the more the greed and ambition comes out, the actual less number of points everybody gets. It's then at the end of the game, it's disclosed that, hey, if everybody works in a cooperative way, everyone gets the maximum points. So yeah, being in the ashram is, for many people, the first time this experience really pays off, or is experienced on such a deep level. There's a saying like, there's no I in team, although there are two in idiot, but there's no I in team. And that means everybody's working together gets a maximum result. But what is the goal of cooperative work on a team? It's sense gratification. Let's earn as much, let's sell as much, let's win as much. But in Krishna consciousness, we work as a team just to please Krishna. And there's no limit to how much we can please Krishna. So we just feel this unlimited energy coming out from teamwork in Krishna service. Yes. Nico, you had a question.
I got really inspired today, and I wrote some
I'll tell you what, I want to take some questions first, okay? Anyone else have any discussions about this topic?
So Lord Buddha was in the list of incarnations. Where is Chaitanya in that list?
Yeah, Chaitanya is mentioned later, Nate, in Canto 11. He's called the Gupta avatar, or the hidden incarnation, because he is Krishna, but he's coming in the role of a devotee of Krishna. So sometimes people would say to Lord Chaitanya, oh, you are Krishna, and he would block his ears and say, Vishnu, Vishnu, Vishnu. So he did not want to display himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead because of this purpose. He wanted to enjoy the happiness that a devotee experiences. See? But nonetheless, he is mentioned in Canto 11. Krishna Varnam Twisa Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parshadam Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti Hi Sumedasa. This means that in the age of Kali, Krishna comes, but he's in a form that's not Krishna, which means blackish, but he's a Krishna, or golden. Krishna Varnam Twisa Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parshadam. And he comes with his weapons and his associates. His weapons are the holy name and prasadam and Srimad Bhagavatam. And then finally, Yajanti Hi Sumedasa. Medasa means intelligent. Actually, Medasa refers to the more feminine intelligence. Buddhi refers to the masculine intelligence. But Sumedasa, those who are very intelligent in Kali Yuga, will worship this incarnation of Lord Krishna, although he's hidden, although he is discreet. Okay, that's a very good question, and he does sneak in there.
Thank you.
Just like Radharani is not mentioned in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Did you know that? She's not mentioned anywhere in the Bhagavatam by name, and because Sukadeva would become too ecstatic. But the idea of Lord Chaitanya being hidden is there for a similar reason. Okay, any other questions? Yeah.
How does Radharani relate to Sukadevi in the scriptures? Like,
because she is the incarnation of Krishna's Ladini Shakti, his pleasure potency, all consolidated into one personality. Sukadev, this is one of the reasons it's mentioned that she's not there by name, is that Sukadev would have become so ecstatic in talking about her that he would have been unable to meet the deadline that he had with Maharaj Parikshit, 7 days to discuss the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. So yeah, this is one of the reasons she's not mentioned. The relationship, yeah, she is a source of great ecstasy for Shukadeva and for all pure devotees. Okay, all right, so time's up, 8:30. Right, we'll see now Krishna in his prasadam incarnation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hari Bol.